one of the best way to learn about different culture is probably through food. And at the end of our New Zealand trip, we decided to try one fine dining restaurant that would highlight New Zealand's native ingredients and the culture and its history.
So we booked Amisfield, and it is one of the best restaurants out here in the Southern Hemisphere. It actually has 3 hats. So for the price of $430 per person, I was honestly a bit skeptical because, I mean, like, how good can it be for that price, right? And since there wasn't a lot of information out there online about this restaurant, we really did not know what to expect. So, yeah, let's go and have some food together now.
So here's the menu. I think there's about like 15, 16 course in there. The portion size is not too big, so obviously it's more manageable than you think. Yeah, you know, like how people always say, like by the end of the fine dining meal, they would, let's just go to Macca's and things like that. We don't really need to, because I think it was a good amount of food. We're not really into drinking, so we just got a bottle of red wine, Pinot Noir, that was recommended, and I think it was pretty easy to drink, very light, not too acidic, which pair really well with the food. All right, for the first dish, it's the green bone fish.
I think it started off very strong, both taste-wise and presentation-wise. The fish itself looks a bit daunting.
They often go by the name butterfish, but we kind of prefer the nickname green bone because they're vegetarian or herbivorous. They feed entirely on kelp and algae, which literally makes their bones turn bright green or turquoise blue. So entirely because of their diet, we have them spearfished for us off of D'Urville Island, just because it's the most sustainable way we have to catch them. You know, they won't take bait on a line, and we really don't want to use nets.
So the way that I remember this dish was it's almost like fish tartare and in a little cone. Very manageable. Besides the look of it, I think it was pretty delicious. It pretty much set the tone for what to come next. Like you can expect a lot of heads, a lot of animal parts that you could see, which
Very
was
visual.
interesting. So for our second dish, we had this little pawa, which is also known as abalone. And they said that because it's farm, they can eat whatever size it is. I'm not too sure if that should be a thing.
Awa is the name given to abalone that's endemic to New Zealand.
I've had abalone before, but just not this small.
I felt like it was chewy, like a little chewy, crunchy that you would expect out of like normal abalone. It just felt like if you had a big abalone and you cut it into like 4 different sizes, that one of that piece, that would be it.
And I think the highlight of this dish is probably the sauce that it comes in. I think it was just a lemon butter sauce. Yeah, it was a bit citric, so I think that was really nice, very balanced. But the taste of the small paw of the abalone itself, it's alright. Like, alright, so for the next dish, we have eel, and then we have vogelbread. I think that's what they call it. I think vogelbread is a common bread in New Zealand.
It tasted very healthy.
Yeah, I didn't like how healthy it tastes. Okay, I think this is like the highlight of the whole dining experience at Amisfield. This is my favorite.
Kia ora. Good evening. My name is Chef Vaughan and I'll be looking after the next course tonight, which is our wild rotado flower.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I'll start you on the bottom, which is an asparagus cup. That's held together with some beautiful French lemon sorrel that our chefs picked today. And then inside you'll find some coins of sauteed asparagus, which has been seasoned with lemon zest, lemon juice, salt, a little bit of pickled garlic scapes, fresh garlic and a bit of salt.
I think this dish itself really emphasizes the whole concept of cooking what comes from the land and like showcasing New Zealand's nature itself. Because I remember he mentioned that everything in this tart came from that one flower. The little edible flowers you see were actually hand-picked by the chefs from around the area as well. It's like really nice to see just kind of like the whole landscape around you being turned into one dish.
I think so far what I love about Amisfield is that it's never really about the food itself. It's always something more than that. How they introduce every dish with the story, how it was made, and where you source the ingredients, those little things. I think it adds to the experience of dining here. And oh, okay, actually this might be one of my favorite dish there. It's very simple. What they have here is a cross between brioche bread and Japanese milk bread. And I'm so glad that I filmed this dish because I've been obsessed with making milk bread. The way that I wanted to describe this bread is that the outside is crispy, like not just the top but also the side, almost as crunchy as a croissant on the outside.
So they would make molds of butter, the same color and same everything as normal pebbles, and then you would have to use a knife to kind of just find which one is edible and which one's not. That's the fun part of this dish though, because you had like a little interactive moment where you're kind of scavenging for your butter.
And besides the milk bread, they also serve it with some saucisson.
Saucisson.
One more time.
Saucisson.
Yeah, let's just say salami. So a bologna salami.
Eating this protein tonight, and we have cured it much like a salami, and we have hung it up for a few months.
And the next dish we have big crab.
Yeah, ever since then we've been really pushing to get our hands on it so we can serve it at the restaurant. What really sets this one apart to other king crab are these huge spikes that come off it and it forms on its head. It's actually got a natural Ferrari red colour underneath the ocean, which is quite cool. And yeah, it's the only species of crab this big that is known to exist in New Zealand. What we've done with it is we've just poached it for about 15 minutes straight into an ice bath. I've taken out all the insides, I've put it back in the head, and I'm just going to serve it over a consomme that we make out of the shell and the innards.
When I first saw this dish, I thought we would get like at least a whole leg or something. And then he opened the shell, get this tiny piece.
literally this big.
It was a bit of a disappointment.
I like the broth that came with it. It was very light and salty enough.
Basically-
It tastes like the ocean, kind of.
I think basically it's just
Crab soup, crab broth, like
crab broth.
whatever
they
steam
boiled it
or
in, they
boil.
just put it on the side, which was it's
I
good.
feel like if you were to put that broth into like a risotto, ooh, that'd be so good.
Are you a chef or something?
Maybe.
Okay, so now we have big power, big wild power.
So, we have now for you a fully grown pole. And this one's wild. So I really love that we have, a farmed pole and a wild one on our menu, since in the wild only 2% of these little guys actually get to grow. So the first step of preparation for this dish is extracting the pole's liver, and that then becomes the base.
I need to cut it.
And you want to two-bite it.
I want to actually enjoy this one.
I'm gonna put the sauce on top.
Actually, I think it splits into 3 for me, so I might three-bite it.
I think this dish really highlights the pureness of the ingredient. They're not trying to do anything crazy with it. It's just the abalone liver and fried abalone itself. So relatively simple, very enjoyable. All right, this dish is
It was a celeriac and Granny Smith apple cut thinly and layered. I would say this is pretty much the palate cleanser in between the sets.
yeah. Basically, you can think of this dish as like a palate cleanser for what's to come next. Ooh, your favorite dish?
Oh, I remember when we first got this dish, everyone was like, oh my god, that looks so pretty. And I agree, it looks pretty. Like the layout and technique that they like spreaded the little white
White
bait
bait,
on
yeah.
top looked very delicate and fine, right? But those tiny eyes, they were just glaring right back at me. And I was the last one to dig into that dish because I was just having to
Why don't you
confront
feed it to me?
myself.
Anyway,
I was actually debating whether you wanted to have it.
personally not much to say. I think the fish was cooked perfectly, very bouncy, and I think it was either poached, lightly poached, or sous vide. But you get the gist of it. There's no sear on it, so you can really taste the pure flavor of the butterfish, which I think it really highlights the ingredient. This is the 3 trio
The trio.
that
3
I
trio means
don't
9.
like. Oh, the trio.
That you don't like?
I don't like any of these dish.
Really?
Yeah. So
Actually-
first off, I'm just gonna go through this. The first off, the violin vapiti, so deer tartare. It tastes a little gamey, like you can taste the gaminess of the deer. That's alright. I think it was something new and I still appreciate it.
I think the deer tartare had a very different taste to like normal beef tartare, and it was seasoned very well.
The best thing about the deer tartare is that wapiti deer is not native to New Zealand, so it is affecting the wildlife. In a sense, by consuming this dish, you're helping the environment, indirectly helping the environment, if that makes you feel better.
We're killing off the invasive species.
Yeah, basically. So the second one is the rabbit liver. I can't really tell the difference between a rabbit liver or a chicken liver. It just tastes like iron. I'm just not really a liver person.
It definitely tasted gamey, and it has the same texture no matter what liver from what
Yeah.
animal you're having though.
But the fruit shell on the outside gives it a nice tanginess. It tastes almost like fruit roll
Fruit
up.
roll-up,
Yeah.
yeah.
And my favorite out of all the 3, like I said in this video, is the mallard palmate. So basically like the duck feet.
I like it. You have to put it all in your mouth so you can get the jello. Put it in.
Out of all 3, this is the best one. And it was my favorite because it tastes just like chicken feet, and I like chicken feet. My favorite thing about this dish is I appreciate how difficult it is to make this dish. Think of a chicken feet and you have to remove every single bone in there so that you can just have one single bite.
Yeah, I agree. I think like the art behind this was beautiful, because just imagine like how delicate the webs of the feet are, and in order to not actually rip the skin off and to then inject, I think they injected the liver in place of each of the bones so that the bones still pop up and have that like distinctive feet color, I guess. I think in terms of taste wise, imagine if duck feet was turned into a crispy chip, smoky crispy chip. Okay, let's go on to the main dishes.
Like I said, I didn't really know what to expect coming to Amisfield. And this is one of the most immersive dining experience I've ever had. I've never had to come out of my chair. So we were invited to the outdoor kitchen where they were cooking the deer. So that was new.
Tia kākoe tēnei pō. Welcome to the feast. Tonight we'll be having whole deer. A bit of rimu, which is a native tree, and gives off beautiful, beautiful, beautiful flavours.
Sure, it'll find its way.
Thank you. And here is our crayfish and blue cheese Tasmanian sauce.
Ooh. It's so soft.
What I love about this dish is probably not the deer itself, but just the experience of being there by the fire, talking to the chef, and asking about his passion for cooking. If you know
his
me,
plans to move overseas. And
Yeah.
just everything is kind of getting to know him on a personal level as well.
I love cooking, and to hear someone speaking about food that way really inspired me. The lamb's tail. This was quite unique. I'm not too sure what the white thing was, but I'm assuming that it's fat. Yeah. It was beautifully cooked. This reminds me of oxtail. It's super soft, caramelized on the outside.
I really liked the little flakes they had on top, like the 4 circle flake thingies. I think one was shiitake mushroom, one was garlic, and it just added, I think so. I remember shiitake mushroom and garlic. I can't remember the 2 other, but it added like a nice ting to it.
Yeah, we're on to dessert now.
Wild butangi tangi.
So this is the wild Botanical. It's also known as the paradise shelder. It's an endemic bird to New Zealand, so we thought we'd make a dish to represent it. We made a chocolate meat from the native hariciki cuisine. We filled it with elderflower gel, and then we've stuffed it with duck liver ice cream. So that's where you find the duck in the dish. On the outside we've got some creme fraiche and some edible feathers from smoked duck fat.
The inspiration behind this, again, beautiful. Chef's kiss. So the putangi tangi is actually mate for life. So once they meet, they're soulmate. They're together forever. Isn't that so cute? So the black and the white represents the female and the male birds, or whatever genders you like, and the two halves essentially make up one entity.
Beautiful story.
Beautiful story. Taste wise though, I would say it's like a dark chocolate mold for the beaks, and again you can see the like little details on the beaks. They were so delicate.
Yeah, it looks really realistic for an ice cream dish.
I was honestly in awe during this whole experience because again we were removed from our desks and evicted to go downstairs and go into this beautiful glass house.
About Central Otago and this beautiful South Island we're on. But Vaughan, our wonderful executive chef, is actually from the North Island and for the past 200 million years or so a lot longer than people have. They are still around today, although their numbers are dwindling. They're very protected. So cool!
The dessert itself just tastes like any ice cream, but the presentation was quite unique. I'll give that a 10 out of 10. The sound, the ambience, the lighting,
It
the
was
environment.
very magical.
Yeah, magical is the word to say.
And the head chef of Amisfield is actually from the North Island. So the story behind it was that essentially he wanted to bring the North taste towards the Southern Island, and like the wildlife and everything there is captured into that one little glass room. The next dish is the hoo-hoo, which is a grub.
Well, the hoo-hoo grub is it's the larvae state of the endemic striped longhorn beetle, or hoo-hoo beetle they're sometimes called. And they spend 3 years in their larvae state, living in decaying or rotting pine trees. These little guys munch through and they create a network of tunnels within the trees. Now, as you can imagine, those 3 years they spend making all these tunnels, they create an awful lot of sawdust and wood pulp in their wake. So we like to make our little hoo-hoos feel right at home at Amisfield. We give them a little kind of bath in their sawdust just so they feel, real comfy.
That's nice.
And then we serve them up for you to eat.
Okay, I think the look of it threw me off a little bit. I didn't really like the way it looked, but that's because of how realistic it looked. I don't know, because of how it looks, I think it affects how it should taste. People say they eat with their eyes, right? And because of how it looks, I think it threw me off a little bit.
Oh, I was so convinced.
But it tastes pretty good.
But it turned out it was just peanut butter rolled into like chocolate crumbs. And we finally reached the last dish.
It looks pretty creepy to me.
So we have our final flavour for you tonight, our Spiker Deer Antler. Big fan of his ice cream. Doesn't matter how cold. Same place as your lamb's tail, our friends at the top of the Crown Range. And then a super local honey. We're lucky enough to know a beekeeper that has hives all around Lake Hayes, literally just down our driveway. So through those bees and their honey, you get to taste all of the wildflowers that are blooming right now next to the restaurant, but really in all of Central Otago. So I do hope you enjoyed it.
The milk. It like lingers around your tongue as well.
I like the honey.
It's like, imagine if you're drinking milk, but it's like yogurt.
But from a deer?
It was definitely very, very graphic, but it's also a highlight of Amisfield because this was the only dish that I actually saw online before actually coming in. The shaping, the molding, everything that went into the details of it was insane. It looked very realistic.
Based on their research, deer milk has the highest level of fat content, which makes it a really good milk for ice cream. And that is pretty much it to our New Zealand Amisfield experience. Any final word you want to say?
I would say that because we don't come across these opportunities that often, so we really do cherish having these videos and these moments to kind of encapsulate our whole traveling experience in New Zealand.
Yeah. A few people ask me, is it worth it? Now, if you look at the price, it's about $400. Food is one thing. You can always find good food. And you would see a restaurant where in order to like really put themselves in the map of the realm of like fine dining, they would have to use caviar, they would have to use all these fancy ingredients, you know, truffle, wagyu, gold flakes, all those like things that are not, things that taste really good, but the price point is just not sustainable. When I dine at Amisfield, it's not really about the food itself. They thought about the story behind it, the ingredients, where they source it, and that's what makes the experience of dining here worth it for me. It's about learning about native ingredients and understanding where it comes from. I value those things a lot. I love my experience there, and once again, thank you for watching. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe. Thank you.
Adios.